All right. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. I had to switch the internet around. Let me see. Go to video link so I can chat with you guys. Hopefully everything's better. Let me see here. Let me see. Okay. Looks like everything's back. All right. Let me know if you guys can see and hear me again. I had to restart the internet here. So anyways, no, there's a lot to be excited about. I was there when Tim... Thanks, man. So I was there right front row. It was pretty interesting because, of course, you know, I'm like a kid in a candy shop because it's the design dome at CTC. And one of the things I wanted to be more than anything in the world growing up was a car designer for Chrysler. So I was like, yes, this is like my it's like, it's the second time I've been there. The last time I was there was actually 10 years ago. That's hard to think that because they had an open house at CTC. But, yeah, it was actually a really fun time. I was like I said, I think I was smiling I had a pretty stupid smile on my face the whole time I was there. It was nice to see the HEMI back. Tim, like I said, was very open about, you know, them making a huge mistake of getting rid of the HEMI. And you can tell, I mean, he doesn't want to officially say it, but you can tell this was a Carlos Tavares thing. We've talked about it a lot of times, you know, but the first thing he did when he came back was he put a team together. And that's why we started seeing that hint with the fighter jet pilot. And it was F-15. We figured that out because Eagle was the code name for the 5.7. So anyways, the team that he put together was F-15. That's what he called the code name for the team. And they basically told him that it would take 18 months to bring back the HEMI V8. And a lot of people don't understand why. I see people that make comments on the videos all the time, and they don't watch the videos all the way through. Or if they read the articles, they don't read them all the way through. The purpose of why it would take 18 months to put the HEMI back in and not just drop it in on day one is because 2025 was a huge update for the truck. Yeah, the truck looks the same. It you know, it's got a new like front end. It's got, you know, it's got a passenger screen and a bigger touch screen. But not a lot has changed on the DT trucks, let's face it. But for 2025 underneath the skin, it got an all new electrical architecture. So they knew for like when they were starting to develop that electrical architecture, they knew that the HEMI was going to be basically discontinued. Now, that was the original plan all along. Back in 2013, when they started development of these engines, they were going to replace the HEMI with something that was smoother, more fuel efficient, and a lot more power. And a lot of people don't know is a lot of the people that worked on what Tim calls the T6, which is the GME T6, is the actual internal code for the engine. So it means Global Medium Engine Turbocharged 6. The T6, when they were developing that, they started out in 2013. It was a long development. But the people that worked on that team were a lot of the old Viper Gen 5 engine people. So there was a lot of SRT performance like technology put into these engines. So that was a big deal. And then when they knew that like basically the standard output would basically, I mean, if you look at the numbers of the standard output, a Hurricane engine, yeah, it doesn't sound that great. They sound like a buzzsaw. But if you look at the actual performance of that engine, it's pretty freaking amazing. 420 horsepower. I mean, that's 30 more horsepower than the HEMI. You know, you look at the torque, it's way more than the HEMI. So, you know, those engines, basically the SO was supposed to replace the 5.7, and then the HO was supposed to replace the 6.4. Well, now you have a lineup of trucks that have 420 horsepower and 540. But the HEMI, again, is old. I mean, it's been a cash cow for Stellantis / FCA / Daimler Chrysler / Servius, Chrysler Group, whatever you want to call them. It's been a cash cow since 2003. So, I mean, it's got 22 years into it. It had one major update. It did get a minor update in 2019 when it got the e-torque system. But overall, it's still the same engine. And, you know, people just love the sound. I love the sound of the HEMI. Honestly, if it was me, I do like the Hurricane high output engine. driving it and stuff. I was really impressed with the performance. The thing is stupid fast. I don't care what anybody says. Oh, it's an inline six. It's, whatever. That thing's got 540 horsepower. That RHO that I drove, that thing would smoke my 300C. No problem. No problem. And that being a car and being lighter and stuff, that would smoke that 300C. No problem. But I can get why people want the V8. Nothing sounds as good as a Hemi with a cold start. It just doesn't. So if it was me, that would be a tough choice. I mean, I really don't. You don't use a truck for, drag racing or anything like that unless you're buying it for a performance vehicle. But honestly, Ram doesn't have a performance truck yet. So to me, I could see why people went to the 5.7 Hemi. Now, they didn't change anything, and a lot of people, like I said, did not either read the articles or listen to Tim in the video. And the reason why they didn't change anything was because if they would have changed something, they would have had to go through and revalidate and recertify the engine. And that would have pushed the engine out even farther than 18 months. So, by keeping it the same, and you got to remember, they basically for 2024, they got rid of the standard Hemi. If they would have kept that, they would have put both versions back in the truck. There's no doubt about it. They would have put the non-e-torque Hemi in there, as well as the e-torque. But because in 2024 they went to e-torque only, that's the reason why. They couldn't change anything because it would set them back. And people wanted the Hemi back. And if you watch the video, Tim says, basically the retention of a full-size truck in North America, if you look at the retention numbers from GM, Ford, and Toyota, and Ram, all of those brands sit between 70 and 80% of retention. So then when you drop one of the most popular, even if it's outpowered, one of the most popular items for the Ram, a lot of people said, hey, we're not coming back. And Tim said, hey, trying to get those people back, it's almost impossible. So that's why the Hemi's back, untouched. It's back as fast as it could be. Again, you're going to see these trucks hit dealerships this summer. And from what I've seen and what I've heard, the trucks go into production in August at Sterling Heights Assembly Plant. So you're going to see them at the end of August. If you're close to the assembly plant like we are in Detroit, we'll probably see them at the end of August. The rest of the country will start getting them probably around early September, probably mid-September. So, and Tim basically said, hey, the Hemi is going to be an option. It's not going to be the standard thing anymore. And the reason why is the T6 totally outpowers it. So why put your most powerful engine as a secondary? If you want the Hemi V8 sound, yeah, you can go out and buy it. And the cool thing is Tim, these engines aren't coming necessarily changed or unchanged for 2026. It used to be if you wanted basically the GT package, which was available on the Rebel and the Laramie, they came with a Mopar catback exhaust from the factory and the Ramflow air intake. Well, what Tim did was everybody loves the sound of the Hemi. So basically now the trucks come standard with that Mopar catback exhaust. And everybody's complaining about the $1,200. And I'll be honest with you, if you were going to buy that exhaust system, it would be about that. So what you're paying for basically is you're basically paying for the exhaust. It's a $1,200 upcharge from the Hurricane engine. So basically they changed the Hurricane prices recently. They were like $2,600. Now they're $1,695. Now you have to pay an additional $1,200 on top of that for the Hemi. But if you think about it, you're basically paying what it would cost to have that aftermarket exhaust on there anyways, or the Mopar exhaust on there anyways. It's just a little food for thought. Let's see here. Who replaces Filosa as the North American COO? I have no idea. I don't know. I don't think Tim wants the job. I wouldn't blame him. I think he's having more fun now than he's had in a long time. From just seeing him talk and talking about what's coming up for Ram, he is very excited. So it's going to be big. The funny thing is there's been stuff like people have said on the internet since we went and had this event. I'm going to tell you something. Tim said there was going to be 25 announcements. It doesn't mean 25 new vehicles, but there is some exciting stuff in the pipeline. That's all I'm going to say. Everything's been embargoed, And there's some very, very exciting stuff. And you're going to be seeing stuff throughout the next few months. He showed us a product portfolio of 25 different things, and he said there's more than that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think Ram fans will be very excited at what's in the pipeline. You're going to see some stuff come out on Mopar Insiders and 5th Gen Rams this weekend. We have an article going up about one vehicle. And there's just a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I can't talk about it until the embargo breaks and stuff, but it'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. I think a lot of people will be excited. Let's see here. Josh, Dundee engine guy here. Did they say where these Hemis are going to be built officially? Not yet. We had heard that it's going to be Dundee, and we had a higher up person tell us that, but nothing's official yet. So they've been cranking out the Hemis in Mexico. The problem is now their hurricane productions are being affected by it. So we'll probably see some kind of change here pretty soon, I would think. Mike the Car Geek, happy 100th Chrysler. Yes, I do not see the brand living unless they North America rebrand. No, I'm going to tell you something, Mike. There's a lot of stuff to be excited about. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. I don't want to go too much into Chrysler just yet, but we're going to talk about Chrysler. Hunter, what is your thoughts on Dodge and Ram going back to NASCAR? I don't know. Are they going back to NASCAR? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. Like I said, Tim's got a lot of stuff coming in down the road, so it'll be very interesting to see. So we'll see what goes on with that. Can we get rid of the Stellantis North America name? It's dumb. It still needs to be Chrysler Group. I don't know if that's going to change, but like I said, this past couple of days have really enlightened me on where things have changed over the last 6 months. What I see with Ram and what I've seen with Chrysler, because again, I don't want to talk too much about Chrysler just yet, but what I've seen and what I've heard from the CEOs and the direction that they're going, it basically makes me a lot happier. As a diehard Mopar fan who would never want to see anything bad happen to these brands, I'm very excited about the future. Very excited about the future. Maybe, as you alluded to, a new gen Hemi is coming with dual overhead cams. I would hope there would be, but the problem is with a new generation of Hemi, you're looking at multiple years down the road. And if they are working on a 4th gen Hemi, it's not going to be anytime soon. You're going to see Gen 3 stuff for a while. So you got to remember, the whole Carlos Tavares thing has set the company back at least 15, 16 months, if not longer. So those products that we really had hoped would come out, you got to remember, it's not going to be overnight that they can change things. There's a lot of factors that go into this stuff. If you're realistic, first of all, you have to find, things for production. Basically, you got to find suppliers to do stuff. You have to have money for development. I mean, a lot of money. So, and the thing is, right now, we know that Chrysler stock Stellantis stock has been going down and it's been going up. The company is only probably, 1/3 of the value of what it was a year ago. So they got to put up a lot of freaking money to do all these changes so quick. You're going to see changes, and you're going to see a lot of changes. And I'm going to tell you something, they're spending money. They are spending a lot of money to get this company back on track. From what I've seen, it's night and day difference from a year ago. Night and day difference. If you're a Mopar fan, it is time to get excited. And what I've heard and seen so far, I'm very, very excited. I heard it was in the works before Carlos. That is true. There was a Gen 4 in the works from what I've heard, but that program was put on canceled, basically. Did they start it up? They could have. But again, we won't see nothing for years. You got to remember, when you develop an engine program, it takes years to put it together. So, like, for example, great example, the T6, the GME T6, that started development in basically late 2013 in early 2014, and we didn't get it into the products until 2021. So, I mean, there was a lot of things going on with that because that was a brand new engine, like brand new architecture, everything. So you're going to see stuff coming, but it's going to be a while. So when you hear everybody say, oh, this is coming, this is coming, this is coming, not for a while. I'm sorry. This is not realistic. Remember Jim Morrison, former head of Jeep Ram? Yep. Would you be excited to see him come back? Oh, yeah. I mean, Jim's a great guy. I've met him several times at different auto shows and stuff. Great guy. I'm surprised he left Jeep. I really am. I can understand why. He's very passionate about Jeep, especially. Jim is... When you meet Jim, he's very down to earth, and he doesn't seem like a car guy until you see him outside of like the auto show circuit and stuff. Like I seen him out on Woodward and stuff like that before, and he just doesn't seem like the normal self that he is like when he's all business. It's kind of funny. Back to the Carlos train up, getting going Mopar Jesus tracks. Well, again, people don't realize how much damage he really did to the company. All this cost cutting. I mean, we heard stuff about stupid stuff. And Josh, you might be able to elaborate because you worked at Dundee. I mean, he was getting to the point where we were hearing stuff from, UAW members that they were cutting back on cutting grass at the plants. Security was another thing. They cut back on security. We heard stuff from Shap that, he cut back on security and people were getting their vehicles stolen. They told them they told their staff if you drive a Grand Cherokee, a Ram 1500, or any kind of 300 or Charger or Challenger, don't drive them to work because they were probably going to get stolen. I mean, that's how bad it was. So, yeah, I mean, there's just so much cutbacks. It was ridiculous. Now we're hearing about them hiring people again. They want to put engineering back. If you go on to their website and actually look at the jobs that are open, there's tons of them now for Auburn Hills. There was nothing 6 months ago. Tons of job openings. I mean, they're doing a complete switchover. My biggest concern is a lot of the people that they took buyouts and stuff, a lot of their long-term people are gone. So they're going to have a whole new generation of people come in, and it's going to take a while to adapt. But, I mean, everything's positive so far going through. The last generation Dakota had a V8. I hope the next one has the option. It's interesting that you bring up the midsize truck. I will say that Tim did talk about the midsize truck a little bit, and one of the things he said was they asked him, if there was a name for it. And he said there's no name for that truck yet. So I don't think it's going to be called the Dakota. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. But he said he just went back and he didn't talk much about it. He said that I was going to do a video on it. I'll talk about it really briefly. He basically said, that they're looking very, very, very forward to them basically coming back with a midsize truck. The reason why is one of the questions, and I'll have to play it for you guys. I have to go through and edit that video because there's a lot of stuff that's embargoed in that video that I took. But one of the people that was there asked him a very good question. And they basically asked him, they said, hey, what is keeping you from giving us a stripped out Ram 1500 for under $40,000? Taking and making power, to getting rid of the power windows, everything. Just a stripped out Ram 1500 under $40,000. And Tim basically came back and had a genius answer. He said, I can't do it. He said, with all the regulations and government input into these vehicles, meaning crash test standards, fuel economy standards, a lot of people think just because Trump's in office, the fuel economy standards went away. No, they got reduced to where they were a few years ago, but they didn't go away. So they're still spending money. They still got to spend money for the future to make sure these vehicles are fuel efficient and all this other stuff. But Tim said he said, realistically, if I took a tradesman and stripped everything out of it, basically it would be $1,000 less. And then he goes, I'm at the point with the tradesman that he goes, we've done it before where we've made just basically stripped out vehicles. And he goes, we don't make any money on them. And he basically, it's true. I mean, they wouldn't make any money. So what's the point of being in business if you don't make, money off these vehicles? So his idea, because they asked him if the Ram 1500 or 1500 Classic, what it did it hurt the sales? And he said, yeah, it did. A lot of people that couldn't afford a Ram DT truck went to that truck. He believes that the midsize truck will fill that gap. And from what he said is that under $40,000 gap will be filled by this new truck coming. So it was pretty interesting. I mean, he did say that. That's not embargoed or anything. And I can see it. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why they're really looking forward to a midsize truck. I don't think that we're going to see like a tungsten version of the midsize truck. After hearing things, I just don't see it happening. I think they're going to focus on. He basically called out the Ford Ranger when he was talking about this stuff. He said about how the Ford Ranger is. If you look at the Ford Ranger, it goes from like $35,000 to about $55,000. I could see that being where the new Ram midsize sits. But he, again, no name for the truck. He said there's no name officially yet for the truck. And he did say, if you're asking me where it's going to be built, he goes, Belvedere. That's all he said. So, but he just went on and said that the midsize truck will be ultimately the replacement for the Ram 1500 Classic. So, set us back 2 years for sure. I have over 15 years in running. I was scared for my job before Carlos got canned. That's why Dundee Engine Retool for the T4 has taken 2 years. He cheaped out. Yep. Cheap machines and not enough manpower on the salary side. Not enough quality engineers, quality department. Well, that's the thing. And I've been hearing things from different plants saying, the machines, they've promised them. They were actually allocated money for different, equipment updates, and they didn't go through it. They never got the equipment. And some of the stuff is just like hand-me-down stuff from other plants and whatnot. So they are spending money. I'm telling you that. The thing is again, if you look at certain things, I mean, Tim went through a whole bunch of stuff about sales. The sales numbers were down a little bit for the first quarter. Everybody looks at the overall numbers. He basically eliminated most of the rentals, the rental fleets and stuff like that, the actual fleet numbers. He basically eliminated those, and a lot of that had to do with making sure that the Ram 1500 residual values stayed up. If you can make numbers on selling vehicles by doing fleet numbers, but the problem is your residual values fall down. So I mean, he's been doing a lot of things behind the scenes that you guys probably wouldn't understand. Like most of you guys wouldn't even think about, not understand, but wouldn't even think about. So again, with sales and stuff, he's been redoing those, making sure that there's more retail sales than there are leasing and fleet options and stuff like that, because they want to keep that residual value for the Ram up. We're going to see trim levels coming. I'm going to be honest with you. We didn't see all the trim levels coming. He just told us that there's going to be a ton of them. He put up a thing on the thing and said, hey, there's going to be a ton of stuff coming. Within the next, he said 6 months especially, we're going to see a lot of stuff. So that's very exciting. There's a lot of product coming. And it's not just for the 1500. We're going to see some heavy duty stuff too. So it's going to be, again, exciting. I think a lot of people will be very excited about not just like what we've seen in rumors and stuff, but I think a lot of people are going to be excited about there is a plan going forward. And I think a lot of people will be happy to know that, I keep hearing these things, Stellantis is killing the brands. They're selling the brands. There's no plans for that. They're going full bore forward. So, and Tim, and the funny thing was Tim started off, this was another thing. I wish I would have recorded this because it was classic. Tim came out. I was taking still images of him. Matter of fact, this is right here. This is when he came out. The first thing he said was, he goes, how can I say it? I don't know the official quote, but it was hilarious. He basically said that, all these rumors online, YouTube rumors and stuff like that, he basically started out with saying about that. He goes, we've been hearing everything. Yeah, our truck's getting he goes, I've been hearing everything that the Ram 1500 is getting a jet engine, a Viper V10. He goes, we're not getting any of that crap. He goes, there's so many crazy rumors out there right now. And he goes, I brought you guys here so you guys can kind of get out there that, Ram's not dead. We're going forward. And it makes sense. So all of our stuff is hand-me-downs from other countries in different languages and different programs for the machining department especially. I'm so glad Tim is calling the shots. It will trickle to the powertrain. Well, and Tim's not calling the shots for everything. But the thing is now... with Antonio, a lot of people will say, he's just an Italian. Yeah, he was born in Italy. But you know what? He's been with the company 25 or 26 years. Everything he's touched was pretty much gold. And you have to understand, back when Sergio Marchionne came on board, he went through the company and found people that were not so much on the path for management, but found people that he could trust. Tim Kuniskis was one of them. Ralph Gilles was one of them. you got to remember, Tim really didn't have a job up in, like, he had a job. He was in marketing and stuff. Tim's first big role was he took over the Fiat brand for US because Sergio picked him. And, that's how he got his start. So a lot of people like don't understand, like, oh, he went through the gambit too. You can talk to Ralph Gilles and all that. Sergio Marchionne picked people that he could trust, that he thought would be good fits, and put them through the gambit. I mean, they worked 24/7. They were always on call, working weekends, had to do whatever it took. He wanted those people that worked like that for him. And Antonio was one of those people he picked. So Antonio actually got picked by Sergio, went down, he was in South America. He turned the South American market into gold down there. Fiat's biggest market is not Italy. Fiat's biggest market is Brazil. They own the truck market there. They have 3 very successful trucks. The Fiat Strada, which is a subcompact 4-door pickup, that's front-wheel drive only, and most of them have a stick shift in them. They just introduced a CVT transmission, 2 years ago in that thing? That truck is the best-selling vehicle in Brazil, and it basically is the second best-selling vehicle in the company behind the Ram 1500. He basically redid the Ram, or not just the Ram brand, but the Jeep brand down there. Jeep, was pretty popular down there, but wasn't as popular as when they brought the Renegade down there. The Renegade is going on, actually last month, it was its 10th anniversary being built in Brazil. And our version of the Renegade was built in Italy, but the Renegade's still going strong in Brazil. It's still one of the top-selling vehicles down there, one of the best-selling SUVs. It's down there. It's kind of funny because the Compass is also built in Brazil, and they constantly fight each other. Like, they constantly swap back and forth in position of what's the best SUV down there for sales. He brought the Compass down there for production. Antonio also had launched the Commander down there. Basically it's a Compass that's stretched out, and it's the 3-row version. It's a D segment vehicle. They had plans down there they just announced they're gonna launch the Avenger down there, the little subcompact B SUV. They're gonna launch that down there starting next year. And then for Ram only had one trim. It was funny. Ram's always been down there. Even when it was Dodge, they actually built the Dakota down there. My favorite generation of Dakota, the 2nd-gen Dakota, they had the one here in Warren truck, and they built them down in Brazil. And, Ram and Dodge always had a strong being down there, but they didn't sell huge numbers. And then in recent years, Ram only had one trim. They had the Ram 2500 Laramie, which was funny because it had the limited grille on it. But it had the Cummins, and that was it. Now, under Antonio's watch, they basically have the Ram 1500 Rebel. They have the Rebel now, but they had the Rebel, they had the Limited, and the Longhorn. Or no, they didn't have the Longhorn 1500. What was the other trim they had? They had the Rebel. Oh, the Laramie Night Edition. They had the Laramie Night Edition, and the Rebel, and the Limited. But right now, you can only get the Laramie, and the Rebel, because with the 2025 trucks. But that will change here pretty quick. They're going to expand that lineup too. And then they have the Ram 2500, but now you can get it in multiple trims, including Night Edition packages. They introduced the Ram 3500 down there, which is actually now outselling the Ram 2500 in that market. They introduced the new, which I believe should be here. I've been talking about it 1,000 times on the channel and on Mopar Insiders, is the Ram Rampage, that compact pickup that goes against the Maverick. That has been a huge success down there for Ram, and Ram's sales have gone up like 95% every year since they basically started bringing more and more trucks into the lineup. And the thing is, they're a premium brand down there. Like, if you look at what Ram is competing against, they're competing against brands like Maserati. But because of the high, like, there's a ton of, like, how can I say this? Brazil doesn't have a lot of money. Like, the average person in Brazil doesn't have a lot of money, but they have a lot of agricultural stuff. So, like, a lot of farms that have money, and people that are farmers. Ram is the #1 brand through the agricultural districts down there. So people that know the Ram brand are usually farmers and stuff, and Ram knows that. Like, Brazil is huge, not only into soccer, but rodeos. Ram sponsors the rodeo tour down there. They do a lot of stuff. They market the hell out of that brand, and you can tell the sales just keep going up and up. So Brazil actually for a while there was Ram's second biggest market. They actually surpassed Canada, and I think that Canada's back to being the second biggest market. But anyways, the whole fact is Antonio did that. That's what got him the position to run Jeep because of his success down in South America. Because a lot of people don't know this, Canada isn't Jeep's second biggest market. Brazil is. So Antonio was pushed up to be the Jeep CEO. And then, obviously, because of his success, he only had a little bit of time to actually do anything. But the first thing he did was, hey, let's get rid of this stupid Wagoneer sub-brand. Let's cut that out and make it a Jeep Wagoneer again. That was the dumbest thing ever, putting it as its own sub-brand. He cut costs. That way, he lowered the prices by $7,000. There was a lot of stuff that he was trying to do. And, again, dealers liked him and stuff. And then when he became the COO... I mean, you got to think, he was only the COO. A lot of people, well, he didn't do nothing. He only got that position in December. And now he's the CEO. So in 6 months, he's ran the North American market. He's put out tons of fires with the dealers. He's tried to put out fires with the unions and stuff like that. And he did a pretty good job. And that's what's pushing him in the CEO. So the best thing is we have a CEO that's coming into the company that is very knowledgeable about the North American market, knowledgeable about South America. And that's why he's touring Europe right now, because he's not very familiar with that market. And he knows what needs to be done. And you got to remember, Antonio builds vehicles, like, he understands that the markets have to operate different. He came up with that whole FCA mentality where you have synergy within the company. You can use platforms and engines in different areas, but each market has to have their own vehicles. So we're going to be seeing that. It's not going to be like, oh, hey, we're going to just make one vehicle and sell it globally and blah, 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 blah. You're going to see a whole bunch of different kind of takes compared to Carlos Tavares' cutbacks. Antonio wants to spend money, and the first thing he said was, and what we've been told is at the town hall meeting, back when basically all the employees got called back to CTC in Auburn Hills, and they had a huge town hall, and they said, hey, the first, I think it was like the third day they were back, they had a town hall meeting, and Antonio was on there with Tim, and he basically said, we're going to build vehicles that people want again. That was the big thing. We're going to build vehicles that people want. And that's when Tim came out and said that the HEMI was back. So, again, Antonio's a whole different animal. And people can complain all they want, but you got to give him some time. Things will not change overnight. Especially with how they've been, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot of money. But you're going to have to see probably, I would say the next 16 months is going to be very critical to see how Antonio does. And I know he likes the whole being under fire thing. It drives him more. But as for the COO of North America, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if there's a really good enough candidate. I mean, Tim would be good, but I don't think he wants it. It seems to me like he's having too much fun with Ram. I think he's having way too much fun. He seems like he's a lot happier than what he was a year ago. I don't know. I really don't know. Let's see here. He was FCA. He knows what worked for the surge. Yep. Tim and Ralph and the guys will get it right, and Antonio will let them do what they want. And that's just it. I mean, Tim came back, and you heard the video. If you watched my video, he basically said, hey, he was on December 12th. Remember, Carlos supposedly left on the 3rd, and Tim was back on the 12th. And he was already talking about the HEMI. So you can tell it's a whole different animal now. Let's see here. Stellantis and Filosa need to stop the Eurofying of Chrysler Group. And they will. Trust me. I think the thing is that there's some powertrains that make sense. Like, we know there's a huge push for hybrids. I don't necessarily think that that 1.6 liter is going to be anything super special, because they've had a bunch of problems with the Peugeot engines. I'll be very interested to see how that performs overall. But I do see, even when I was listening to Chris Fuel yesterday, like, we'll talk about that in the next few minutes, but I was really impressed with what Chris said, even about the Chrysler brand. Their whole strategy from this whole electrified everything is completely changed. And it even sounds like that's going to be the third option. So, I can't wait for that V8 Charger. Hopefully a manual 6-speed. I don't think we're going to see a manual transmission anymore. Just because, first of all, the younger generation doesn't even know how to use them. The fuel efficiency is another thing. I doubt it. I would be super impressed if they came back with one, but I doubt it. And we're not going to see a new Charger V8 probably for yet another about, I would say, 24 months? You know, that's the thing. This car was not developed for the HEMI. It's going to be the same thing as, the Ram. It's got to go through all this stuff. Plus, it's got, unlike the Ram, this vehicle didn't have it. So it's got to go through validation. And Tim said right there, if anything was to change, it would take 18 months. So if you're putting a whole new powertrain into a vehicle, on top of engineering it, you're looking at 24 months at least before we see a new V8 Charger. I'm sorry. It's just being realistic. Hey, Paul. How's it going, man? If you guys like Mopar diecast, check out Paul's channel. He's got tons and tons of stuff. Tons and tons of stuff. And you know what? I actually started out the stream, Paul, but then I had to restart it. I just picked up, one of my buddies just sent me 2 new M2s for my collection. So I got the pink D150, and then I got the top hand one. So I'm almost caught up with everything. I think I need the new Sprite one. They just introduced 2 of the new Dodge haulers. So I got a couple more I got to get, but yeah, if you like Mopar diecast, check out Paul's channel. He's got a lot of cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff. What's Rich say? How will Dodge survive long term if they never get... hold on a second here. My screen darkened. If they never get Ram truck back. Ram trucks exist, thankfully, because of Dodge. Tim kind of made a joke about, people always say that, they still call the Dodge, or the Ram, the Dodge Ram. I don't know. I would love to see the two kind of combine back into one. I've been talking about that for a long time. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't think it will. I would love if it did. I think it would strengthen both brands. I think if you went into a dealership like you used to be and have a full Dodge lineup to compete against a full Chevrolet lineup and a full Ford lineup, I think it would be beneficial for both brands considering what the market is today. There's no reason why they can't do what they did in the 70s. Like each dealership had Dodge and then Dodge trucks. They could keep the Ram name on the trucks. Just still call them Dodge Rams. I mean, big whoop. It's like having a trim name. But I would love to see the brands more like Dodge and Ram come back together. But as for seeing them together right now, I don't think it's in the works. Let's see here. Hey, Michael. I have understood in corporations, in my opinion, you have to spend money to make money. The cost cutting only values your brands. That's exactly right. That, you know what the sad thing is like I have a business degree, and that's exactly what we've always been told in business classes and stuff. Hell, even my tax person tells me, you got to spend money to make money. So, I mean, that's what you got to do. And good companies do that. You reinvest in your customers. If you go back into my video about the Ram 1500 getting the HEMI, Tim even talks about that, about how much money they would have to spend to get customers back. And he said it's not worth it. It's just to give them what they want and you won't lose them. It's harder to get the people back when you basically don't give them what they want. You basically lose those people forever. And that's what he was talking about. You think we will 6.4 liter HEMI or a 4-cylinder Cummins in the Ram 1500? 6.4 HEMI, I'd be very, very shocked. I don't think that should have been done a long, long time ago. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. Honestly, I see the 5.7 coming back and being kind of a placeholder for the time being until something else comes like down the road a few years. Like I would love to see a Gen 4 HEMI come back and kind of do something. But the thing is, the inline six is, even if you put the Apache back into the Ram 1500, yeah, you get the sound and stuff, but the HO would just stomp the hell out of it. If you go on to YouTube and look up the channel Car Expert, they're basically a Australian like Automotive magazine that does a bunch of videos. They have an excellent video. They pinned up all of the American trucks against each other in a drag race. They had the Ford EcoBoost. I think they had what was it? The 3.5 liter EcoBoost, maybe. They had the Chevy 5.3. They had the Ram, the last, like the 5.7 HEMI. They had both Hurricane engines, and you should just see how bad the HEMI got stomped by the HO. I mean, just that HO was the fastest engine by far. There was a couple times where Chevy and the 6.2 kind of got a run on them, but in the top end, that SO, man, and Ford actually had a good run on them too, but Ford could not compete with the HO. The HO is so far ahead of these other engines, it's ridiculous for performance. But as for a diesel, I would love to see a diesel come back. One of the best trucks I've ever driven was a, matter of fact, hold on. Let me see here. I'll show you the truck. Give me just a second here, because we got, this is Jared's. By the way, if you read my article over at Mopar Insiders, go over to 5th Gen Rams. Jared Belfort, who's my co-editor and all that stuff at both websites, he wrote his own article because he was part of the event too on the 5.7 HEMI, and his is just as good as mine, I would say. Let's see here. They sent me so I was at the EcoDiesel launch back in 2020 or 2019, and it was a lot of fun. They sent me this truck. They sent me after the launch. They sent me this truck in winter, and it was super amazing. I love the EcoDiesel. I almost bought one. This was a 2020 Ram 1500 Rebel Black EcoDiesel crew cab 4x4. Loved it. Now the sticker price I didn't love. It was, at the time, I think it was like what, $4,000. It was like, to me, that was crazy. But the truck itself was awesome, and I got better fuel economy than you would ever think. For having off-road tires and all that, and being a Rebel in a 392 rear gear, I was getting over 25 miles a gallon. And I'm not talking about being easy on it and trying to, like, just sugarcoat it. It was like I was on it like pretty hard, driving normal, 25 miles a gallon. That truck was awesome. It had 260 horsepower, was plenty of, like, power for daily driving. It had the diesel like clatter to it and stuff, but it was such a nice truck. I wasn't a fan of the Ram boxes. I never have been, but I do love the multifunction tailgate. There's actually a video on this channel. I think it's got like 28,000 hits. I actually redid a video that I never released about the multifunction tailgate, and I put it on this channel instead of the 5th Gen Rams web channel. I just never released it, and it was crazy. Yeah, the sticker price was $71,000 at the time, and this is before COVID. So this truck was expensive, but it was absolutely. I'm not a huge fan of all black. Like I just bought that Charger Daytona, and it's all black, and I hate all black. I love this truck. This truck was awesome. The only thing I did not like about it was the fact that on the Rebel you couldn't get vented seats, and I'm fat. I sweat a lot, and I love having the vented seats. Like, it's one of my things. Like, I have to have a car with vented seats. I've been very picky over the last like 6-7 vehicles I bought. They all had to have air conditioned seats. But this was a great truck, and I really wish they would bring the EcoDiesel back. I understand with Dieselgate and all this other crap, they don't want to bring the diesels back. But diesels, I'm going to tell you something. For a pickup truck like this, it was so good. It was just a great motor. 420 foot-pounds of torque. It was quiet for a diesel. I mean, I did tons of videos on it. Hold on here. I don't think... let me see. This is hard to think this was 5 years ago. Let me see if this pulls up real quick. Here we go. Let me turn the volume up a little bit so you guys can hear. And look, I had a little bit more hair.
Hey everybody, Robert Miller with 5thGenRams.com here. And hopefully you can hear me okay. It's a bitter, cold, windy Michigan day, but I have a really cool surprise. Ram actually sent us a new truck to test out. So let's take a look at it.
I gotta wait a second. For some reason, the quality kind of sucks. Hold on here. I'm gonna do at least 720. But anyways, no, this truck was just awesome. It was, like I said, it was the perfect setup truck minus the not having the ventilated seats. I thought it was just the perfect all-around Ram.
Alright, so this is the truck that Ram sent us. This is a 2020 Ram 1500 Rebel Black EcoDiesel. The Rebel Black package is all new for 2020. So is the EcoDiesel. So really cool truck. Right now it's in entry and exit mode. You can see how low it is. We'll take and jack that up here in a second. But I just want to give you an idea of what the exterior looks like. Coming around to the front, the Rebel Black gives you the black badging on the front. It also gives you the black skid plates. You get black wheels. But this truck here is pretty loaded. Black and...
That's going to cut out. But anyways, it had the Rebel 12 package on it. I absolutely love the truck. It was just a great all-around truck. I have so much... Actually, I have tons of video on this truck. So much video that I could actually do... I could probably do another video. There's a lot of stuff that you guys haven't seen. Like, I still have a 100-mile loop video for the RHO I just tested. I went and did a 100-mile loop for MPG, and it's a really good loop. And I still haven't put the video together, and I got to do it because 2026 is already coming out. Maybe one of these days when I get some time, I might not do a video for a couple days because I'll work on that, because I literally have like 40 hours of footage I have to go down, because it took like two and a half hours, and I had like all different kinds of camera angles and stuff. If you guys really want to see that, that was a really good video, I think. But that would be a lot of fun to do. Like, actually go through and edit that footage. I think you guys would really enjoy that video. And I drove the RHO with the hands-free stuff too, so that was kind of cool. But that truck was probably by far, and that just goes to tell you, like, for example, I've driven like almost every single configuration of Ram 1500 because of 5th gen Rams, and the EcoDiesel was probably I would say I love the HEMI, but the EcoDiesel was the 3rd gen EcoDiesel was my favorite engine in these trucks by far. And I'm not a diesel guy. I absolutely love this engine. I think it was the best package. I drove a Tradesman 2-wheel drive Tradesman with a 321 rear gear in it, and I was getting almost 30 miles a gallon. This thing got 25. So, I mean, there's a lot of positives outside the HEMI. I mean, everybody just is so stuck on the HEMI. I think there's a lot of different powertrains that people could be really happy with. Let's see here. I was fascinated with the Hurricane 6. Hold on here, let me go back. Cut this off. Shut that off. Okay. I was fascinated with the Hurricane 6 because I always thought it would be perfect in the Grand Cherokee. They really missed the opportunity when developing the WL. Well, the thing is, again, the WL, you're right. I don't know why they wouldn't develop the WL to actually like be able to take the Hurricane in. A lot of people don't understand is the Hurricane engine is a straight 6. It's not like a slant 6 where it's kind of like, leaned out. Being a straight 6, it's a long engine, like a super long engine. So like that's when you see the spy photos I put of the new Charger, how long the hood is on it, and it kind of comes up drastically. It's because that motor, it might not be as wide as a HEMI, but it's longer. So that's the reason why it wasn't able to be in the Grand Cherokee, because when you put it in there, it would stick out the grill, and they would have to change the whole front subcradle, and they weren't going to spend the money. Maybe that will change going forward, but we haven't heard anything about updates for inline 6 for the Grand Cherokee at all. Now, personally, a lot of people have reached out to me asking me if the 5.7 is coming back to the Grand Cherokee. I simply don't know yet. I haven't seen anything to say that it is. People have seen Grand Cherokees running around with dual exhaust. There's been supposed spy photos in that, and from what I've been told, those are not Grand Cherokees. Those are mules, and they're not Grand Cherokees. So people thought there was a Trackhawk coming back, but apparently that was something different. And we've seen mules being run around with Grand Cherokee bodies for the new Stelvio. You got to remember, Stella Large platform is like an evolution of the Giorgio platform, but it's wider. The Grand Cherokee body will fit on that, but certain models won't. So when you see that vehicle running around, doesn't necessarily mean it's a new Grand Cherokee. It could be something else. Just saying that. But yeah, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see, Grant, the new GME T4 engines, the new SO and HO. Again, they've had a lot of issues with development because of this new electrical architecture. But, I mean, that's why they postponed it for 2025 to 2026. Hopefully they got everything worked out. We're going to see that vehicle very, very soon. Like, very, very soon. Before the end of the year. So we're already, 6 months into the year. So within a few months, we're going to see it. And hopefully it'll be on dealer lots, probably by the end of the year. So we'll see. Again, it's one of those things where, I mean, obviously none of us have drove the new GME T4, SO engine that's supposed to be going into it. So hopefully it does pretty good. But I would love to see, and a lot of people have asked me, hey, the 5.7, a lot of people want to see the Grand Cherokee L come back with the 5.7 because it kind of competes with the Durango a little bit, 3 rows, and it would have roughly about the same kind of towing. Not the tow and go package, but just the standard towing, like 7,200 pounds. A lot of people want a 3-row, over 7,000 pound towing vehicle. Will it come back? I mean, it could, but with the vehicle getting a new electrical architecture, again, you're looking at, what are you going to do? If they bring it back, it has to be like Tim said, it has to be exactly like it is. They got to adopt it for the new electrical architecture. It's going to take time and it's going to take money. Didn't the EcoDiesel have a lot of problems? The second generation EcoDiesel was the one that constantly had problems. And the funny thing is, there's a lot of people that had problems and a lot of people that didn't. I know a person that works for Ram that has like over 200,000 miles on their personal 2014 Ram 1500 EcoDiesel and absolutely loves the engine. The Gen 3 engine was, it had a few issues, but it was nothing like the second gen. So I hope the Charger will get a HEMI. Well, what we've been hearing is that's going to be a priority. So hopefully that will come true in a couple years. Michael, lock and load firearms, the first iterations did, the later iterations just never got the love. I don't know what that means. So, if the Charger gets the HEMI back, official dream car. It's funny. I did a live stream the other day and I actually took it down because it was so bouncy you couldn't really tell. Everybody complains about the Charger Daytona. And I'm not a huge fan of electric vehicles, but it's been so fun. It's not a muscle car. I keep telling everybody that. I'm not trying to justify it, but it is a really nice car. It is a fun car. It's stupid fast. It's not the fastest thing on the planet, but compared to 99% of the cars that are on the road, anytime a Mustang comes up to me, they always have to downshift and try to punch on it against me. It's hilarious. But if you watch the video where I taught my wife how to charge the car, she talks about being on Woodward and she drove the car out on Woodward and had it in track mode. And as soon as we got out there, there was these kids in a white Hellcat that come flying up. There's 4 of them in this white. It was a Hellcat wide body, and of course they see my wife and they try to punch on it. My wife, she loves speed. She doesn't know anything about cars, but she loves speed, so she punched on it and took off faster than them. And they pulled up next to her and giving her the thumbs up and stuff. That car gets a lot of attention. And it's funny because I have yet to have somebody come up to me and tell me that car is a piece of crap. I have a lot of people that come up to me and say, man, I really wish that car had a HEMI. It's a beautiful car. And I think the Dodge Charger LB, the new generation of Charger, deserves a second chance. The latest updates to the car make it a lot better. Does it have a lot of issues? Yes. My car's been pretty flawless, knock on wood. But I've noticed a couple things that are kind of irritating. Like one thing I've learned over the last month of owning the car is I absolutely hate where this is just an issue with design. I absolutely hate where the memory seats are located on the door. So like I had a 2018 Dodge Durango and it was located right underneath the armrest. Well, I'm a big guy. I like stretching my legs out. My knee used to hit that all the time. So I'd always hit the second memory seat and it would push me into where my wife sits. So I'd be like right up on the steering wheel. This car, like the 2021 Durango that I have, because that became my wife's car. That was my vehicle and it became my wife's. That's an RT. And they located it up on the door. And I thought that was great. With this Charger, they put it right where the Durango GT was that I had. So it's right underneath the armrest on the door. So I constantly hit it with my knee. So I'm constantly shifting through the seats. And then when you hit that, because my wife has her own key fob with like her own profile, everything changes. The lights change in the car. The stereo changes to her preferences. It's like, oh my God, it drives me nuts. Like I hit it probably about at least twice a day. It's becoming the most frustrating thing about owning that Dodge Charger. As for charging and stuff, I'm getting used to it. I still don't have a level 2 charger at my house. I've been fast charging the car, and you know, I charged it quite a few times so far where I've gone up to 100%. Some chargers only let you do 80. I have it converted in the car to accept up to 100 because it's a lease. I mean, I don't really care if the battery lasts long. I got a 2-year lease on it. So, honestly, it doesn't take that long. If you charge it to 80%, I charged it from 32% the other day to 80, and it only took, I think, 18 minutes, 19 minutes, something like that. And it cost me like $17. So it wasn't that bad. If you wait after 80, it's pointless. I mean, I've done it a couple times, but it takes forever. And I'll be honest with you, like the other night when I took my wife out to go charge the car, you know, we've been trying to watch our weight and stuff, and you know, it was kind of nice because it was a beautiful night out. It gave us time to walk around the parking lot about 4 or 5 times and kind of just talk. I mean, you do lose a lot of time with EVs. You lose a lot of like, hey, I'm gonna go do this and trying to relax. You got to kind of find your own thing to do in the car during the time. For me, it's okay because obviously I work on the websites and stuff, so I can do all the social media stuff for the next day. I can do all my social media stuff. I can work on articles. I can do stuff like that. So for me, having to charge the car on a fast charger for, you know, like, I don't know, 40 minutes isn't bad. It's not bad at all. The only thing I can say is coming, again, I've never charged an EV other than like a home charger up until, you know, I got this car. And I will tell you, the most frustrating thing is the fact that, honestly, the most frustrating thing about EVs right now in charging them is that every freaking EV station is different. And you got to have like 15 freaking apps. I've only been using I used a Tesla one the other day to do a video. That's the only time I ever used a Tesla one because you have to have the Magic Dock charger to charge your charger. Charge your charger. But the local ones here, like I use EVgo, they're the most expensive, but probably the second most reliable and fastest chargers behind Tesla. I mean, it depends on where you are. It's kind of like going to a gas station. Sometimes you go down the block, it's cheaper. Sometimes you go up. And the thing is with these charging stations, they have connection fees. So it depends on like which one you go to. So like the one that I go to all the time that you see me at, that company is a local Michigan company, and they do their EV chargers are amazing because you don't have to have an app. You go up, you touch the thing, you put, you know, say what charger you're going to pick out of it. You basically take the charger, plug it into the car so it can analyze. You scan your, you know, your debit card, and you're ready to go. They need to make all EV chargers like that simple. You don't need to have an app. I think having an app to go onto a charger, unless it's like you're prepaying for something to get a discount, like EVgo, I spend an extra $6 a month, and I get discounts on the charging. So basically, I don't have a connection fee, and the connection fees are like I think $1.50. So if I go and charge at the EV Go that's close to my house, if I charge more than 3 times, I basically pay the charging thing, but you get a discount on how much you spend. The problem is the infrastructure is not there yet, and everything's so freaking complicated. They need to they need to make regulations on how these freaking EV chargers can be laid out. Like they need to make just like how we've been talking about. Oh, Tesla has the the NACS connection, and then like the charger has the CCS one, and now they're talking about combining them so everybody adapts to the Tesla charger. They need to basically make it. They actually need to make an actual charging station that's a standard kind of thing, where it accepts payment just like a gas charger or a gas pump. It's too complicated. And that's the biggest thing I hate about EVs. Let me see here. Hold on here. I got to refresh my chat. It's bogging down. Let's see here. And now I got a commercial. I gotta love how YouTube put on way more commercials now. If you watch YouTube like me, you're like, what the heck? Let's see here. They're making a huge mistake going 4-cylinder only in the Grand Cherokee. I get the Pentastar V6 is old, but it's proven solid and reliable. I agree. Any updates about the solid-state batteries for the Stella Large platform? Not anything different than what we heard about a couple weeks ago. We heard that they were officially approved to start testing, and we probably won't see them into vehicles by at least 2028. We still got a few years. And you got to remember, those are not solid-state batteries. They're semi-solid-state. Let me see. But, so, let's talk Chrysler real quick. We talked Ram for quite a while. Let's talk Chrysler. So, in about a half hour, Chrysler turns 100 years old. You're going to see it tomorrow on Mopar Insiders. I have all the articles done. I have to go through and edit photos tonight. That's what I'm going to do after the live stream. And you can see I got my Chrysler 300C t-shirt on underneath. So Chrysler invited me to a select media kind of fun thing to do. It was basically a 100th anniversary celebration, and they had it at the Detroit Yacht Club, and it was freaking amazing, like absolutely amazing. The reason why it was so amazing was because they brought out a lot of the Chrysler historical collection, a lot of the most prominent Chrysler vehicles. It's like an hour long, but I go through all the concept vehicles and stuff. And then tomorrow you're going to see me talk about my driving event there. So I got to drive the Chrysler turbine car. I actually got to drive it. Yeah, it was really cool. I didn't take any video of me driving it because, they want you. I brought a camera mount actually, but I never used it. But I had a couple people in the car with me. Nobody from Chrysler. It was kind of funny. We were just all taking turns driving it. And they had like a 3.2 mile loop around Belle Isle kind of set up. So that was just an experience. It was kind of like driving. The best way to explain it was it felt like you're driving like the 66 Batmobile. That turbine wind and everything is labeled in the car. Like it looks like an airplane fuselage. Everything's kind of labeled. So it kind of reminded me of the Batmobile a little bit, but it was so cool because that's one of my favorite cars of all time. Just it's so different to listen to the car, how it drives like a normal car, but it's just really, really different. I don't know how to explain it. So that was cool. Let me see here. Why did this... let me see here. Hopefully I didn't lose you guys. For some reason, I got too much stuff open. But anyways, I got to drive that. I got to drive a 1957 or 58 Chrysler 300D. That was cool. I never drove one of those before. I got to drive a 1976 Chrysler Cordoba. That was actually a show car, but yet Chrysler... Let me see here. That Chrysler actually had as they gave it to Ricardo Montalban as a press vehicle. And you might know who Ricardo Montalban is. He's the guy who did the Rich Corinthian leather commercials, you know, from Fantasy Island and all that. Anyways, the funny thing about that car was it actually had a vinyl interior, not a Corinthian leather interior. Yeah, 160 horsepower at 60,000 RPM. Like idle's like 14,000. It's freaking nuts. But it's super smooth. That considering that car is like what, 50 years old, 60 years old, 60 years old now, 62 years old. That car is super smooth. I mean, it's kind of sketchy with brakes and stuff, but I mean, it's just it's a totally different kind of animal. And I'll show you a video of it real quick too. But they had like a bunch of concept cars out. Like here you can see the Kronos, which is really cool. This is probably one of my favorite cars, was the Kronos. This was 1998, I believe, that this car came out. And this was in the Tom Gale era of design. So, I mean, everything back then was just awesome. And it influenced the Chrysler 300 quite a bit. Let me see here. Let me go to some videos. Now, this is Brant Rosenbusch. He is basically the Chrysler historian. Him and Ralph are in charge of the Chrysler Historical Collection. These are the vehicles that you see for concepts. Basically anything that was in the museum, him and Ralph are in charge of now. And Brant knows everything about Chrysler. He is the biggest diehard know-it-all Chrysler person on the face of the earth. So it makes it perfect sense that he's there. But this is what he was going through. He was talking about the lineup of cars that we were driving. So it's pretty cool. So I'll let you listen to this.
My team standing over there, all that fine young gentlemen, to make sure you have an experience today that you won't forget. First, I'd like to talk about each individual vehicle real quick, and then give you a highlight of the rest of the day and the drive. So the first vehicle is kind of behind you. It's the 1924 Chrysler Six prototype. Chris mentioned it a couple times in her talk. You're going to drive the car that Walter Chrysler rode in and drove. So that's pretty special. It's a real touchstone for our company. The vehicle's important because of the high compression engine. Most engines at the time were 4.0 to 1. This is 4.6 to 1. But the big thing was the hydraulic, or four-wheel hydraulic brakes. You could get those on a Packard or a Duesenberg, but you're going to pay extra. These were standard on that car. So that was a big deal. Mr. Chrysler believed in safety, value, and his big thing was continuous improvement. Every year, the product had to be better. That's why we came out with so many firsts over the years. So it's wonderful having that car, and I think you'll enjoy it. Behind me is the 34 Airflow, advertised as the first modern car. It was designed from the ground up.
I don't know if you guys can hear what he's saying, but he basically said we got to ride in one of the 1924 Chrysler Six prototype cars that Walter P. Chrysler actually drove. If you see that picture of him standing next to it with his hat on, that's the actual car. And then they had a 1934 Airflow. They had a 1951 Chrysler New Yorker. They had the 1955 300, the Chrysler 300, the C300. I was going to drive that car. I really wanted to, but it kind of overheated. So they kind of put it to the side. They had the 1957 Chrysler 300, or I keep saying 57 because they're almost identical. The 1958 Chrysler 300D with the big wings on the back. They had, again, the turbine car, which was awesome. They had, they had the Cordoba that I told you about that Ricardo Montalban had. They had a 1986 Town & Country convertible, which was actually Lee Iacocca's car that they allowed him to have. The funny thing was it had like 60, or I think it was like 55,000 miles on it when it was turned back in. And Lee Iacocca never drove. It was basically for his daughters. They drove it. But anyways, it was his car. So they have that. They had a 1948 Town & Country car. Basically, it was the green one with wood. If you ever went to the Walter P. Chrysler Museum, it was there. The only thing was we couldn't drive that one. The funny thing is like, again, we talk about manual transmissions. If you know what fluid drive is basically Chrysler's version of like it's almost like a semi-automatic transmission. You have a clutch, you engage the transmission, but then it's automatic after that. So they really didn't want a lot of people driving these cars that didn't know what the heck they're doing. So they had drivers for those cars. The other ones that were automatics were pretty much a done deal. They had a 1996 Town & Country LXI minivan. That was like, obviously the first year for the jelly bean shape with the actual 4 doors on the minivan. And it was emerald green. My aunt had the exact same minivan. It was hilarious. They had a 2006 Chrysler 300C SRT8. They had a new Chrysler Pacifica minivan with the plug-in hybrid. But anyways, it was just an awesome lineup of cars. So anyways, I'll show you some other stuff too. So let's see here. Here's the turbine car. I posted this on my personal Facebook, but you guys haven't seen it yet. So this is the car. This is just before we drove it. And you'll see the guys from TFL Car. They're up here talking. But anyways, they're talking to Brant. But this is right before I got into it. So. Whoops. I was gonna show you guys. If you look at the seats, you can see how worn they are. It's funny because you don't realize these cars were passed around for 3 years to various like families and stuff to drive them, and then now it's been sitting in the historical collection. But this is all original. Nothing's really different on it. So you can see like it's got worn spots in it. It's still used. That's what's cool about it. Now, this car will be coming to the Chrysler Carlisle Nationals. I'll be there next month. This car will be there. And then what I've also heard is the one that's in the Detroit Historical Museum will also be there. I heard that they were going to try to talk to Jay Leno and taking his there. So they would have basically 3 Chrysler turbine cars on display. I don't think there's been 3 of them together in, 50 years, if that? So that would have been a huge thing. But everything on this car works. If you look at the back, the interior backlights work. It's just everything is like, it's got that whole turbine look to it, and it's so cool. It's just a really, really cool car, and it was so cool to experience like driving. But you can see the engine. This is the 3rd generation of turbine. They actually ended up having 8 generations of turbine engines. The last one was developed in 1981. So, Chrysler had a massive development of turbine engines. No, the HEMI 412 was not there. That was the only one that I was very disappointed at. And the funny thing was, the day I went, I actually wrote an article, because all this week we've been doing stuff on Chrysler. I wrote an article on the 412, the HEMI 412, and it wasn't there. That was the only one that I was disappointed to not see. So, here we go. This is the turbine car coming back. This is right before we did all that stuff. Again, being 60 plus years old, and that thing still runs pretty good. Now, this is Walter P. Chrysler's. This was one of the original prototypes. This is the one that they had at the New York Auto Show, and we actually got to ride in this. We didn't get to drive it because obviously, it's not an automatic, so people couldn't drive it. So, but it was really cool.
Gentlemen, we got a car coming through real quick.
Sorry.
The only thing that was kind of like a lot of people don't realize is those doors aren't held on by much. So like a lot of people, they had to assist a lot of people getting in and out, because if you leaned on those doors, you'd bend the hinges. There's not a whole lot of weight holding that on. So, but this is actually a Phaeton version. So this is the full convertible top. That's what's cool about that one. So, and then, excuse me, if we look at some of the concepts, I was there mainly for the concept cars. There was actually quite a few, and one of my favorite concepts actually showed up there. I didn't have a video of it, or the one I'm looking for. So, for example, the Firepower was there. The Chrysler Crossfire convertible, or Crossfire from 2001 was there. Ultimately one of my favorite cars. This is the 2000 Chrysler 300 HEMI C concept. This is a car that they should have built. Everybody thought that this was going to be the LX car before it came out. The Kronos was there. The Atlantic. Everybody loves the Atlantic. It's kind of like the poster car for Chryslers during the 90s. And then we got more firepower stuff too. But anyways, they had those there. And they had some of the 40s cars. Here's a picture I took right before we drove the event. This is when Brant was talking. You can see the lineup of cars. So there's the Cordoba that Ricardo Montalban had, the turbine car, the 58 300D, the C300 from 55. This is a Chrysler 51 New Yorker convertible. This is the 48 Chrysler Town and Country, and this is the 34 Chrysler Airflow. So these were some of the cars, and then they had a couple of the other ones over to the other side too. But yeah, I mean, it was just super cool. I'm so glad I actually got to experience that, and I really wish a lot of people would have too. But here's the Firepower concept. If you're not familiar with the Firepower, this car came out in 2005. Hold on here. I'm turn the volume off. This car came out in 2005. This is right after the HEMI 412. This is basically a Dodge Viper that has a unique body as a Chrysler, and it has a 6.1 liter SRT HEMI V8 under the hood, so 425 horsepower, 420 pound-feet of torque, and it's connected to a 5-speed automatic transmission. Super cool car. Everybody thought they were going to build it because it was, based on the Viper, and it's a hatchback. It actually would have been really cool. You put the gas in it. Whoops! Every time I move the mouse, it moves. It's got a actual glass panel roof on it. Super cool concept. And again, it's just one of those what ifs. Like, it would have been cool to see Chrysler to actually have a sports car like the Viper. But one thing is like, you don't see these cars out much. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to come to this event. Because, I mean, you can see these cars in a museum, but you don't get to see them out in the natural daylight. And when you see them out in the real world, it takes on a whole different kind of, persona. And these cars just look absolutely amazing out in the real world. Now, the funny thing is because they're concept cars, not all of them are taken like really good care of. You can see some stuff down here on the bottom of the Firepower. There's some like paint chips and stuff. If you were to see, like, I went back in 2014 to the Dodge 100th anniversary event. I was lucky enough to go experience all the concepts there. The 1989 Dodge Viper RT10 really needs to be restored. The concept, it's got paint chips, cracks, this leather's cracking in it. It needs to be fixed. So hopefully they'll do that one day. But some of these concepts, because they're carted around everywhere during the show circuit season and stuff, they do get banged up. The 2001 Chrysler Crossfire. Now, when this car came out, I thought it was kind of ugly. I was like, man, I really hate the front end of this thing. And at the time, it was funny because Daimler Chrysler was, leading the way. And they basically marketed this concept as American powertrain, an American powertrain meets German styling. And then when the Crossfire came out in 2004, it was a Mercedes SLK2 320 underneath. They basically said it's American styling meets German powertrain. It was like the total opposite. Let's see here. Hold on here. I'm sorry I'm missing your guys' stuff. Any updates on the Stella Medium vehicles for North America? Brampton retool is still paused going into June. They were supposed to meet, I think, today or tomorrow with Unifor to give them an update. I haven't heard nothing yet. I haven't heard anything yet. So when I do, I will be sure to talk about it because I know a lot of people are asking. Did they have a Chrysler that seats about 20 and as big as a wheel is about to set sail? Yeah, Dave. Yes. Dave's just as sarcastic as me, so. The B-52s, you crack me up. So anyways, the Crossfire. Anyways, it's just the concept. The as I've gotten older, I appreciate this concept more because the car that we got in production was significantly toned down compared to this. This thing looks kind of, how can I say it? It kind of reminds me of like, if you look at the front end, it kind of looks, obviously it looks European, but it kind of reminds me of like something medieval for some reason. I think it's the headlights. But the headlights are all back. You got to remember back then, carbon fiber wasn't as, like it was pretty rare back then to see actual cars other than concept cars, maybe some F1 stuff and that with carbon fiber. This thing had carbon fiber headlamps, which was really cool. So let's take a look at this. But it as it's gotten older, I've actually appreciated this car more. But under the hood, 2.7 liter V6, yes, 2.7 from the Intrepid and the Sebring. And it was supercharged. So it had about, what was it, like 275 horsepower? So it wasn't too bad. But nonetheless, I mean, if you look at the side looks way more dramatic than the production version. You can see just how far back this thing drops off. The production version came back farther. And then you're going to notice that the spine that goes down the car, like, the whole point, the reason why it's called the Crossfire is because of this body line. So this goes from like an inverted like line and it goes to extrovert. Basically, it goes up across. That's how the car gets its name. But the very interesting thing is compared to the compared to the production version, the actual greenhouse sits like way out here on the production version. This is almost like a boat tail, like a radical boat tail kind of car compared to the production version. And you can kind of see it when I show you the back of the car. They did a good job about bringing it to production, but you can see how drastic the proportions are compared to the production model. And then you can see that the window's kind of down. See, basically these concepts, you got to remember, these are kind of getting old. There's stuff that needs to be done with them, but it still looks pretty dang good. But look at that body line. I don't know if you can see it because my head's cutting it off, but that body line, that Crossfire body line is just so prominent on the concept. And then again, oh, I hate when it does that. You get the spine down the back, and you can see right here how narrow it is compared to like a production Crossfire. It does have the spoiler that comes up, but you got to remember too, they sold the Crossfire globally. So it's got one here. It's got like it basically cuts down to about the size of an American license plate. On the production version, to show you how much wider it is, it can fit a full European plate. So you know how wider a European plate is. But overall, they did, like I said, they did a pretty good job bringing it to production considering what it was. But this thing is just so bold. And again, this is one of the cars that I've really started to appreciate as I've gotten older. I didn't really like it when I was a teenager, but now I'm really liking it as I get older. Another car, this is my favorite one. I told you this. This is the 2000 Chrysler 300 HEMI C. Now, a lot of people think like, oh, this is the LX platform. This is not an LX platform. This came out in 2000. This came out the year after the 1999 Chrysler, Dodge Charger RT concept, and it is actually it's a prototype 5.7 liter Hemi under the hood. Now, at the time, they always said that the 5.7 had 353 horsepower and 353 pound-feet of torque. That's what they said for this engine. But anyways, this car kind of blended the mix of a 300M with a, I would say like kind of like a, it was very much 300M if the 300M was rear-wheel drive, but it kind of blended it with a very sleek, almost, I want to say like, I don't want to say Jaguar, but it's very, if you look at the body lines, it's very smooth. It's just very classic. It's very American design. And when I say Jaguar, it's because everything's kind of like soft lines. It looks American. It looks powerful. The front end is supposed to have like that mean look where like a fist coming through the air. But overall, it's just super smooth. Like the body lines are all rolled into it. It's not like sharp edges. We just seen the Crossfire, and you can see how radical the one line goes into the next. for design wise, this thing is super smooth, super elegant. It looks production ready. Even to this day, this car looks pretty good. If you change the headlights around, this thing would be a car that everybody would want to drive. And I'm being serious about that. I think everybody would want to drive this car. Hold on here. But anyways, yeah, I absolutely love the front of it. I think it's absolutely gorgeous car. Again, looks like the 300M, but the farther you get back, you can see that it's more proportioned like a rear-wheel drive car. Long hood, short deck. And the funny thing is it's got Willwood brakes instead of Brembos because we were so used to seeing Chryslers with Brembos. The interior, totally 90s, a lot of plastic. And the funny thing is like I didn't really realize it until as I've gotten older. If you look at the center stack, I hate Apple stuff, I swear. Hold on here. If you look at the center stack, it reminds me a lot of the Dodge Daytona from the 90s. That same kind of layout. And you can tell it's early 2000s to 2025 vehicles because navigation in it, and you had like 1,000 buttons to deal with navigation because there's no touchscreen. And then down here you had a scroller, push button scroller to pick where you wanted because, again, not a touchscreen. But overall, it was a super slick car. The one weird thing that I see down here that I never noticed before is there's a gauge pack or a gauge pod thing down here. I don't know what that's about. We know this is a prototype HEMI. I don't know what this has to do with the car. So I'm kind of curious. I'm going to ask Brant because I didn't have a chance to. But again, absolutely stunning car. Even to this day, I think it looks great. But I would love to see Chrysler come out with... I hate this stupid computer, I swear. I would love to see Chrysler come out with, a two-door, four-passenger convertible. You know, you think about it, in 2007, Chrysler had the Sebring, the Crossfire, the PT Cruiser convertible. They had 3 convertibles. They don't have nothing now. So I would love to see a big V8 convertible, like a 4-passenger convertible. I think that would be so sweet. Let's see here. The Crossfire rear end looks like a dog squatting to take a dump. It kind of does. I always hoped that they would have come out with the 300C convertible. I love that car. Yeah, I loved it too. It still looks stunning to this day. Even the color. I figured the color would age really bad because it's kind of like one of those... it's kind of like an old person kind of color, but it just looks good. To me, if this car was like white or like bright red or something, it would still look good. But I just absolutely love the mean look on the front end. It just, look at how, let me go back here. If you look at this angle, look how pushed out the wheels are on this thing. Come on. You can see how pushed out the wheels are. I mean, this car just looks amazing. The whole actual look overall. And that's why I say, I don't like the new Halcyon. Halcyon looks too futuristic. The Kronos, this was a cool car. Typical Tom Gale styling. Very retro. I love the wings on it. Gives it kind of like a 40s vibe meets 1990s. A lot of this design went into the 300. And then Ralph, when Ralph was talking yesterday, he was actually saying that this is his favorite concept car that Chrysler has. So, just a super sleek looking car. Even to this day, 4 doors. You know, it looks good no matter where you walk around it. They had a couple more. This is the 1941 Chrysler LeBaron concept. This car actually has a lot of significance. This car is the only concept car ever to pace the Indy 500. So it's actually really, really cool. I mean, for considering its age, it's it's over 80 years old now. This thing just looks absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. And then it's got the glass partition for the people in the back. Just a super cool car. And then the next one that's next to it is even more radical. So this is 1941. The next car is 1941, and it's also based on a LeBaron, but this is the Chrysler Thunderbolt. Now, not to be confused with the 1994 or 3 Chrysler Thunderbolt concept. This was the first one. That concept that was done in like 93 was basically kind of like a modern take on it. This thing was so radical. If you look at the front actually looks like the back. It's got hideaway headlights, and it kind of looks like there's a license plate on the front, but it's actually where the text is for the car. And then the back kind of looks the same. It kind of reminds you, if when you walk around this thing, you'll see that the side skirting is like even all the way around it. It kind of looks like a bumper car, but it's so radical. It's pretty cool. I mean, it just sticks way out. Let me see here. While you guys are looking at that, I want to pull up my book here real quick. Trying to find something real quick. So this had a straight 8 in it. But yeah, it was a super cool car. Just totally different. Cashmere gold. Yep. Did they have the Atlantic out there? Yes, they had the Atlantic out there. Yeah, I got a couple pictures of it. For some reason, I think when I went to go take video, like Chris Fuel was in front of it with some kind of media group talking, and I just didn't have time to take video. I mean, I was doing so much stuff yesterday. I was there from 9 a.m. to, almost 2 o'clock. And by the time we got to drive everything and do everything, my time was short. I walked around everywhere trying to take pictures. So this is the 1953 Chrysler Ghia Special. This was this car was designed by Ghia. And this was actually at the Walter P. Chrysler Museum for a long time. This actually has a 331 firepower Hemi under the hood. But it's an absolute gorgeous sedan. Just very elegant. And the funny thing is again, you think about how old this thing is, 1953. It's again a concept car. Overall, just looks very stunning. And the funny thing is, back then, you think about it, you're coming from the 40s, where everything's rounded, and then you're going into the fuselage era with all the 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 airplane infused design. This kind of blends both. It just looks super smooth, super sleek. Absolutely love the car. And no, I didn't take any video of the Halcyon. I took a lot of pictures, but I didn't take any video. There's a reason why, because I'm not a big fan of that car. So yeah, those were some of the concepts. We can go through some of the pictures real quick. I have to edit the photos. I just went through. Dave, you were asking me about the Atlantic. Here it is. I have to go through and edit all these photos. There's like 220 or 232 in this folder. I think I took almost 3,000 photos while I was there. But I literally just picked like some of them. So, but the Atlantic from 1995, a really cool car. And a lot of people don't know this, but they actually based this on one of Tom Gale's favorite cars. This was actually based on the Bugatti. What the hell is it? It's like, I think Type 57 Atlantic, but it's based on the Bugatti Atlantic car. That's why if you look at the front, it looks like a Bugatti. That's why it has this look to it. But it's actually based on, it would be like a modern take on a Bugatti. And they even used the name Atlantic. Again, here's the special. That picture turned out terrible. I don't know what the heck happened there. We can fix that. Delete. Here's the Halcyon for everybody who is wondering. The Halcyon was there. I'm not a huge fan of the Halcyon. To me, it doesn't say Chrysler at all. I still, no matter how many times I see this car, certain things were cool about it, but I just can't get into it. I don't know why. And this is going to inspire the next generation's Chrysler 300, supposedly. I think that will be, or not Chrysler 300, but a new Chrysler sedan. I think it'll be, this is way too conceptual. I love the wheels on it. I think the wheels are like the best thing about the car. The rest of the design, I could care less. I'm not a huge fan of the fastback. It looks more like Aston Martin than it does a Chrysler. This was the birthday cake we actually got to. They split with all of us. This was made by a cake shop. I can't remember where. I think it was a Detroit cake shop, but they did a really cool thing. They put a Chrysler grill on it, had pipes. It looked really cool. And then the other thing was when you're in the media, you have to schedule things with like Chris and all that. The problem is a lot of these people they do interviews and stuff. It's either do interviews or don't drive the cars because you constantly have to like go through and pick. You can do a whole day of events, but by the time you go through and document stuff and all that, a lot of these people are just there to document. They're not huge Chrysler fans like me. And I'm there to see like all these concept cars and stuff. So a lot of times you don't get a lot of time doing things. There's Chris right before she talked. Tomorrow I'll have a whole video up on the channel, probably around 10 o'clock in the morning, or maybe even later. Depends on how much I get done. But she was there, and they actually had like a new commercial video and all this other stuff. So it was pretty cool. Come on. There is Lee Iacocca's Town and Country that we got to drive. That was really cool. Let's see here. There's the cars again out front. What the heck? I swear, I hate Apple stuff sometimes. I switched over to Apple probably about 2 years ago now. When it comes to like photo editing and video editing, yeah, it's pretty good. But just using their stuff, there's so much, like, I hate the Apple mouse. I absolutely hate it. Come on. There's the Kronos again. This is right before lunch, so I actually got some time before everybody started. They were still doing the drives and stuff. I came back out and I shot all the concepts again because I wanted to actually spend time with the cars. But I was rushing to get it done because everybody was starting to come out and have Chris do interviews with. And what they do is they want to make everybody's video looks like significantly different. So they end up like putting her in different like areas. So like I'd be like filming one car and they're like, oh, we're gonna set it up here and do something, and I was like, oh. So, but anyways, super cool. I mean, these cars are so, to me, the cars look even better out in natural light. And you can see like the Atlantic, just like the boat tail look of it looks so good. Let's see here. That's a really cool shot. Like I have to straighten it up and stuff, but there's the front of it. But I went through and I tried to, like, you know, again, to me, I'm documenting all these cars. A lot of the guys, like Chrysler will take photos for you and stuff, and they'll send you a press kit of all doctored up photos that look nice, but they don't get all the details. And again, I wanted to get like as much detail as possible. So eventually I'll be writing up articles on all of these. But, like that LeBaron. See, and here's the thing too, you can hit this automatic button on here, and then it kind of sharpens it up a little bit. For some reason, Apple does this thing where it makes the pictures look worse until you hit the automatic button, and then it focuses them. I don't know why. I think it's just to make their stuff look like it does better. But it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I'm so glad I got a chance to go and actually experience this because, again, I did it in 2014 with the Dodge 100th anniversary event at Meadowbrook, and it was just so awesome because you get to see, like, again, you get to see the historical collection actually being drove around. You know, they're not just thrown into a museum, and that's the cool thing. I do love those wheels on the Halcyon. I do think those are really cool. I do like the wheels a lot. Come on. But I can't get into the overall shape of this car. I don't know why. I just can't. I can't say in the Halcyon how it got approved. I'll never understand. Ralph spoke highly of it. He said that he even introduced the designer of it, the girl who's now in charge of the Chrysler design, Irina. I mean, she's done some really good projects in the past, but this thing is just too futuristic. To me, it doesn't say Chrysler. It says more like, hey, I'm an Aston Martin, or like an Aston Martin versus like meets McLaren. It doesn't say Chrysler at all. But I will say, I think after you see my video tomorrow and what Chris says about the brand, all the things that I've been complaining about, that they need to go back to blue collar luxury and stuff like that, you're going to see a huge change. I think with Tavares being gone, I think they're doing things differently and actually putting the brand back to how it was. I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised. Again, Halcyon, I don't know. This will not make it into production. Obviously, we're going to have you can't have glass that goes down to your legs, but we're going to see like something that's kind of like swept design with like very indented, body lines and stuff. Again, I just can't get into this car. Even though it's the same exact platform and everything my Charger is, it looks like an Aston Martin. It looks like the Valkyrie Aston Martin. It doesn't look Chrysler at all. Is that the last one? Or did my computer freeze on me again? I don't know. So anyways, yeah. Come on. I guess my computer froze on me. Doesn't want me to do anything. So anyways, yeah. You're going to see a lot of stuff tomorrow about the Chrysler brand. Not only on the channel, but you're going to see it on Mopar Insiders for sure. I got... there is a new minivan, a new special edition minivan that we've seen. You've probably seen some of it already on some channels and stuff like that. So I complained a lot. You guys probably know this. I complained a lot that they weren't, doing anything about the 100th anniversary. And the first thing Chris announced was they're building a special edition 100th anniversary minivan starting this month. So in the one of the biggest complaints I had about the 300C was the fact that they launched it with black, white, and red. I was like, why didn't they put like frostbite blue? So it would have been the actual 300 colors. It would have been red, white, and blue. So what did they do for this new minivan? What are the colors? Red hot, hydro blue, and basically bright white. So they actually did red, white, and blue. But those you'll see that as the first article tomorrow, and then you'll see my driving article with some pictures, and then I'm going to do an article on the 300 HEMI C convertible concept, and I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do for the fourth article yet. So I still got to do that, but it should be very, very fun to go on and celebrate the 100th anniversary. Then again, we're going to have a video. I don't know if I'm going to do one video or I'm going to do multiple. I might do a couple. I might do one tomorrow morning and do one in the afternoon, but we'll see. So anyways, guys, it's midnight here. I got a lot of stuff to do. I'm probably going to be up to like 4 doing articles and stuff like that. So I appreciate you guys coming around, hanging out, having some fun. It's cool. Like I said, I think tomorrow, after you've seen the video that I did with Tim, and I think after you see the video with Ralph and Chris tomorrow, I think you guys will start thinking a little bit differently about where the brands are going. I think you guys will be a little more excited. I am, and that means a lot because, I'm probably the most diehard Chrysler person that you'll probably ever meet. But, there's a lot of positive things going on in the company. And like I said before, if you guys, hear rumors and stuff about bad things, like, I'm looking into the whole Dodge Charger Daytona sudden acceleration thing. I've wrote to my reps trying to find out what the heck is going on with that. There's a lot of stuff that's like negative on the internet about how Chrysler's dead. They're going to sell Chrysler. They're not going to sell Chrysler. Chrysler's got a bright future ahead of itself. We've been delayed and delayed and delayed again. And the thing is like, yeah, I wish the airflow was out by now. And the very interesting thing is, yeah, Chris Field delayed it because she wanted this new design language. Now it's being delayed because it's going to become a hybrid. It's not going to be an EV. They're going to launch it as a hybrid. So that's going to be exciting news. So for all those people out there, there's a lot of positive things coming forward. I think a lot of people will be very shocked at what's happening in the pipeline. So stay tuned. I hope you guys have a good night. And again, check out Mopar Insiders tomorrow morning. Hey Dad, how's it going, man? So anyways, I'll see you guys later. Bye.